Hi everybody, this is Alchemist 2 and I'm back again with another book. This is called the book of, actually the whole title is Lasting Happiness in a Changing World. The Book of Joy. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and Douglas Abrams. And of course, has this lovely cover. And I love the back cover because it shows His Holiness and Desmond breaking it on down. I mean, if that does not give you a smile, I don't know what will. I would love to meet His Holiness, actually, Tenzin's brothers in Bloomington, so maybe sometime I can actually... He does come to visit, so fingers crossed, because I really want to meet him so bad. I aspire to be like His Holiness, but I am only human. I am nowhere near the perfect quality that His Holiness is, but they Desmond and His Holiness talk about perspective, and they say happiness itself is something that can be achieved from outward experiences. Joy, however, is something that comes from within. And I thought, dang. I mean, my mouth literally dropped when I read that statement, and I thought there's so much truth to that. And they talk about the 5 pillars of happiness, and they talk about community, and it's an African concept, and it's based on people who make up people who make up people, or Ubuntu, I do believe it's called. And they talk about joy in and of itself, experiencing other people's joy. And I have actually felt this. I used to have envy, and I thought, envy, you really shouldn't have, because it just gives you wrinkles and raises your blood. But it's like anger. It's not good for you. But he has different methodologies of overcoming such things as anger and envy and loneliness and fear. And he also talks about mortality, and it's something that he mentions with a great sense of deal of humor. And one thing I found very fascinating is the word humor comes from humble, or the base root for the word humble, and humus, and human. I thought, wow. Again, mind blown, but it was just, this book is so incredibly insightful, and there's so much to be gleaned from it. It's just so rich and diverse with all the examples that Desmond and His Holiness go through. And of course, they don't sugarcoat that there is a lot of turmoil in the world, but he says, we can't turn a blind eye to that. However, we can learn to shift. And this reminds me so much of my friend. I have this beautiful friend. Of course, I can't contact him anymore, but he is the wisest person I know, and absolutely beautiful in heart and spirit and soul. And just being around him, you feel so much love and compassion. There is no hatred in this man. And he is a prime example of just how even when you have kind of a setback and having those thoughts come, it talks about how thoughts will come. And I thought, oh, here comes a thought that might alarm you. Of course, I thought, why am I thinking of that? Well, it's actually one of my favorite songs in the Steven Universe, but it was just, it's just, there's so much truth to that. Thoughts are fleeting. They don't really have any basis in reality. They come and go. They flit and they flutter. And he has a meditation example where he goes into great depth of how will this thought affect me in the future, or affect others in the future, and is this really beneficial? And I thought, having issue with anger. Well, I don't so much now. I'm more in control. Like, I had a little bit of pinpricks here and there today, thinking, there's a certain way that you do things, and I just was getting a little bit rankled about it. I thought, nah, not gonna get upset about it. No big deal. There's a reason why they want it to be done this way. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So I continued with my work. It's a rather short book, and there are some really fantastic photographs of Desmond and His Holiness, and it's very touching and very meaningful, and they're so mischievous, and it kind of reminds me of, you've got this soul connection between two people from two different mindsets. One is Buddhist and one is Christian, yet they transcend that. It's all about compassion, suffering with. Of course, I thought, yes, I remember the Latin, but it had been a while, and it just was like I was reading that word for the first time, and I thought, suffering with, huh? And if we had more compassion in the world, it would be a better place. And of course, they talk about jails and punishment, and why punishment really doesn't solve anything. And of course, I'm thinking in Norway, or was it Germany? They have a place where they can have their own rooms and whatnot. I mean, even murderers get this, but they don't return to a life of crime. In fact, they're rehabilitated. I thought, there are people that are trying to integrate this because they're seeing that the revolving door is not working in the United States, and some people are thinking, heresy, you can't do that, it's not going to work. And you think, why do you think that's not going to work? You got to think outside the box sometimes, and you got to take a leap of faith. But yeah, it brings to mind that, and it brings to mind a lot of other issues. It's just a very, very good book. It's very concise and meaningful. Excuse me, I'm sorry, long day. But as far as books are concerned, it's one I'm going to keep in my library, because I'm getting a feeling that I would probably turn to something if I had an issue, thinking, okay, how can I get to the root of this niggling problem that's kind of making me a little bit irritable and not at all kind or easy to deal with. And I've grown quite a bit over the years, and I'm a lot easier to get along with. I mean, I know that I had a temper, and I would get angry with a drop of a hat. That's just really stupid, but it doesn't solve anything. It just, like I said, it raises your blood pressure, it just makes your heart beat faster, and as far as the effect, it's very negative, and other people can get hurt too. So there are positive ways to deal with anger, and I'm learning about them. But that's pretty much all I got to say. I mean, I can't really go too much more into details of the book itself. You just have to read it and let it wash over you, and it's something that is self-help, and you can return to it when you think, oh, how am I going to deal with this upcoming problem? Am I going to be envious of my next door neighbor because they have a Ferrari in their garage? Nah. Why would I be? Why would I be jealous over that? That's rather silly and trifling, and it's just such a trite detail. And to be honest, I think they worked hard. The alternative would be I feel happiness, and it's just like I used to feel jealous hearing about people talk about their children and their families, and I'm like, I'm happy now. I don't care. I'm glad because they have that joy, and someday I too will experience that joy. So it's just a different way of processing it. It's a different way of seeing, and I had never really done that before, but I'm happier. I'm a lot happier. Yeah, I try to focus more on the accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, don't mess with Mr. In Between, like my dad used to say, but I often sing that to myself and it helps. And of course, a sense of humor changes everything. And I laugh in the face of danger. Ah ha ha, yeah. Sure I do, but I do most of the time. I take risks, but with a certain kind of control. I know that life does not equal control. Life equals risk, like I told one of my friends, and of course, he countered me with some kind of fantasy world he's living in. But yeah, I've tried. I'm doing my best to kind of rehabilitate him from thinking that way, but it's not working. Uh, but you just gotta realize that we're here to learn and we're here to help each other as much as we possibly can. And we have to look up from our phones. Well, I don't. I mean, I don't trust in my cell phone anyway, and I'm not like this. I'm more of I like working with people and I like helping people. But if we do more to help our fellow man, then the world will inevitably feel the change of that and want to reach out, even though sometimes it can be a little bit challenging at times. But there's always a solution. There's always a solution, even if it looks insurmountable. There's always a way, but you just got to think. You got to go outside your comfort zone sometimes. But that's basically all I have to say about the Book of Joy. So, until next time, live long, prosper. Ciao, Tutti.